not record violence or Taliban control of territory they're fleeing, not ISIS or unparalleled airstrikes by the coalition that has finally forced them from their homes. They're instead running from drought. A record dry spell, forcing more families in Afghanistan from their homes this year than the war has. And as if Afghanistan hadn't already broken all superlatives for its misery, this is what it's driving them to. Meet Mamarine and her 6-year-old daughter, Akila. You'd think a tiny family united under plastic sheeting. But desperation means it hasn't turned out that way. Mamarine has sold Akila for $3,000 to this man, Najmuddin, who will give her to his 10-year-old son, Sheraga. Listen to how they got here. Mamarine first. I fled my village, she says, with my 3 children because of severe drought. I came here thinking I will receive some assistance, but I got nothing. To avoid starvation among my children, I gave my daughter to a man for about $3,000, but have only got $70 so far. I had no money, no food, and no breadwinner. My husband was also killed. She doesn't know that I've sold her. How could she know? She's a child, but I had no other choice. What if Akila tries to run, we ask? Whether in tears or laughter, she says, Akila will have to go. Who would sell a piece of her heart unless they really have to? Akila's buyer, Najmuddin, thinks buying a 6-year-old girl is an act of charity. Her family don't have anything to eat, he says. They were hungry. I know, I'm also poor, but I'm sure I can pay it off slowly in 2 or 3 years. The cameraman asks, but aren't they children? Doesn't matter, he says. These things happen here. Even an old man marries a young girl. It happens. Najmuddin also fled the drought. The UN says it has put 275,000 people on the move this year, about half from around the area of Badghis. The wheat crop has failed us, he says. We couldn't grow melons. All the other crops failed because of the drought. We lost our livestock. The sheep, cows and goats all died of hunger as there wasn't any fodder for them. Around the camp, we hear this kind of horrific story repeated. Here, this man sold his 4-year-old daughter to a 20-year-old man to settle a debt. It is a world of survival and unimaginable choices, where families must betray each other just to live. And winter is ahead, promising to be colder, as arid and hungrier too.
Question then becomes, how long is this drought going to go on for, and how much more of their lives is this affecting?
Yeah, I mean, it's extraordinary to have 4 years of failed rainfall like this. It's even damaged the opium crop, which is sort of key to the insurgency in Afghanistan and something that actually has persisted and been at a record high last year. It's now 30% down where it initially was. That damages livelihoods, and there's also a lot of people have been looking at the impact of drought or climate change on conflict, exacerbating it. There are some studies that suggest perhaps the Syrian civil war came after a period of the agriculture in that country being heavily damaged and therefore fomenting the possibility for violence. We've not seen violence at this pace in Afghanistan in the entire 17 years, and something like this just puts the most vulnerable again on a new kind of front line, Max.
Climate change isn't something you can resolve very easily, so what are the solutions aid agencies, for example, are looking at here?
Well, they've got people in a place now in displaced refugee camps, so that makes giving out aid to some degree easier, but that isn't a permanent solution by any stretch of the imagination. They can't at this point go back to the homes they fled from drought. Imagine fleeing a place because of drought. That's a pretty severe decision to actually make, and it shows you how arid the climate must really be in those places. So yes, with now more people on the move because of drought in Afghanistan, because of the war, which is startling because the war's at a peak, I think the future is extremely bleak.